Welcome to the Starting Over podcast. I am your host, Edward Shelton, aka Dark Logos, and this episode is what we shall call the giant size episode. I have with me, in no important order, Ignatz Mouse, George Massu, and Dan Moran. So say hello in whatever order you wish to.
Morning, guys. How are you? This is George.
Morning, this is Ken, a.k.a. Ignatz Mouse.
Morning, this is Dan, a.k.a. Moran.
Yeah, and it's like the crack of dawn, a.k.a. 9 to 10 o'clock for all gamers. And there's this burning globe outside called the sun that I haven't seen in a long while. So this is very interesting. You will notice that, yes, I have 3 guests on. And this is just as much giddiness for me as it is probably for you. And so now we actually can get Dan and George and Ken. And I was trying to get Alex, but we had technical difficulties. And I messed up with my scheduling. So, that's on me. So let's jump into it. All right. Starting off, we've seen Batman sets so far. It seems very underwhelming. In my opinion, what do you think on the set? Do you think it's going to be like what we've seen so far at October 20th? Do you think it's going to be a set that's going to be flying off the shelves, or you just think this is going to be like a forced buy because of the Batman Utility Belt events?
Well, this is Ken. I'll weigh in. I know there's a lot of negativity about this set, but I actually think the set is going to do very well for a couple of reasons. From a character standpoint, Batman's popular, and it's been a while since we've seen a full DC set. So I think you're going to see quite a bit there. And for the theme and character players, we have a lot of new characters in the set. Probably more new characters in the set than since maybe Captain America, which of course didn't do that well either. Or maybe that's an apt comparison. From a meta standpoint, I don't know about the boosters flying off the shelf, but I think we're going to see a lot with vehicles. We might even see our first significant errata out of WizKids to change the way something plays shortly after it comes out, because maybe skipping ahead here, I think vehicles might be a little bit broken. And I'm not the Chicken Little who says that this or that from the new set is broken.
Yeah. So, Dan and George, what do you think as your brains awaken into the genius that you have?
I like the set. I don't know if it's going to be crazy off the shelf either. There's some characters in it that I'm kind of like, and there's certainly a lot of similar power sets. There's a ton, some point out, there's a ton of exploit weakness in the set, but not a lot of damage reducers. So there'll be some figures that'll get their uses. The only thing that really bothers me about this set is the prime things, where, now you've got been harder to collect things of all varieties, and they've already made a prime super rare, so isn't that basically a chase? I got so annoyed. I actually bought a full set of this online, so I'll be getting all the primes that way and such, but she'll be happy. And there's a couple of pieces that are pretty interesting. I'm actually also pretty excited about the vehicles, the Batmobile, the GCPD Cruiser, and the Bug in particular. Although we haven't seen the tank or the Haunted Tank yet, they might also be hilarious.
Yeah. So so pretty much, George, what do you think about the set so far?
I guess I'm just waiting for the lower cost figures, see what they like. They previewed a couple cool ones. Harley Quinn. I'm going to see more characters like that. I only have an imagination to play vehicles that sort of seem broke. Does and what they can do and carrying. But I still have a lot more to learn about the vehicles too.
Yeah. I would say the big thing for me right now with looking at the vehicles, I mean, I think I've said it to pretty much everybody here and even on the show. Batman and Mind Control is about a Batmobile and Mind Control is about to be one of the most brokenest things that's going to enter HeroClix. Like, you're going to need erratas. You're going to need erratas. big time, saying like, hey, once you mind control a figure to enter into a vehicle, once they are no longer friendly to you, they automatically eject. So you can't have a situation where you can pretty much just kidnap your opponent's figures. Ramming, that should not be in the game because it's pretty much free damage. It's no longer, how did I set up my team? It's like, oh, you have high defense? Let me load up 3 cop cars and just ram you. And, like my cop cars take damage, but they're really cheap. But I did automatic damage to you and your high point figure and your high defense figure.
The cop cars can't ram, though.
Oh, was it the Batmobile? The Batmobile that rams?
The cop cars, though, they get that thing...
they just, move through you, and they push you aside, and they give you damage. Penetrating damage.
Yeah, and they don't take anything for that. That's just a special power.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah.
Very cheap.
Yeah, for you to be able to, at that low cost, just be like, free damage, with no roll, I think that's going to be a problem. And then, we always said, like, when Lamp comes back, it's going to be a monster because special powers are going to be involved. Now we pretty much are getting equivalent of Lamp, and we're going to get something like Cop Car plus Alfred plus Lieutenant Gordon, something like that. And then it's going to be like, Gotham Gangbuster. Somebody's going to call it something like that. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. But I don't think the set so far has gotten me. The only thing in the set that's got me was Booster Gold, and that's sort of sad. Okay, so I know we sort of gone on to the vehicles as a upcoming mechanic, and just in general. So I'll start off with George this time. Do you think WizKids is adding too much to their plate, or do you think they just need to keep bringing new stuff in?
As far as new mechanics or process
new mechanics, yeah, just new mechanics.
Oh god, I don't mind the new mechanics as long as they're good mechanics. Not really sold on this vehicle thing yet. I like the promotional idea from the anniversary set. That was a cool mechanic. I'm not quite sold on vehicles yet.
All right, so what do you think, Dan?
It almost seems though like they're trying too hard to get a little gimmicky each set. DC 10th was kind of they brought back up a mechanic promotion. They did it right and it was cool and that was nice. And vehicles they're bringing in and they're a little bit nuts. And then next set we've got these dials or I don't even know what it is yet, and that's more.
Those team dials or whatever they are, right?
Yeah, it seems to me like they're just trying to bring in a new gimmick each set and build around that, than just do a set. And I don't know. It sometimes it's I don't know. Sometimes I think they've run out of ideas, but they don't like running out of cash.
That's fair. I also think that they don't really explore the ideas they've got very well. How many attachables have we seen since Captain America? There's lots you could do with that, but there's
2?
There's just 2 outside that set, I think. I think they should play around with it a lot more before they. I'm not sold on this team base idea. I get with that and split merge. They're trying to have their cake and eat it too with duos. That the complaint was always, well, my characters shouldn't be chained to each other across the whole board. They should be able to split up and attack. Well, now they get split and merge for that. I can see that. That's practical. They probably have to work some kinks out about making it, a practical thing on the battlefield. But now they're doing this thing with the team dials. I'm skeptical. I have a separate complaint, which is I just don't know where I'm going to store all this stuff. Little figures fit in boxes that stack. Big sculptures that NECA specializes in. They need shelf space, and I don't have that. I got plenty of room to stack cases.
Yeah, I will say, like, when we talk about the storage issue, real briefly, I have a Superman and a Dark Phoenix from 10th Anniversary that I'm afraid to put inside of my case just for the pure fact. Well, my storage boxes just for a pure fact of like, I know they're probably going to get crushed or broken, and then they just can't fit common storage just because of their dimensions. I mean, we hadn't had that problem too many times, but I think like a couple of mechanics that need to actually be looked at by WizKids is the promotion or the morphing, and make morphing the replacement for AE. Like, you shouldn't have to get to a click and then say, I'm going to put on my costume now. You should be able to just say, I'm putting on my costume. So I'm going to turn into, 33-point Thor, or, 33-point Iron Man, or 55-point Captain America, or whatever you want to do.
I'll agree with that. I think the morphing or the weapon swap in the case of Punisher, that's a mechanic I can get behind, is really nice. I like it on Hank Pym. I love it on Beast Boy. Actually, you talk about the new set, those new 2 Beast Boys have got me excited and dusting off my T-Rex and my old Beast Boy too.
Yeah. And, I mean, those, I think that they should get behind that. The promotion, in 10th anniversary, I thought it was a bit bull, because it was more like gotta catch 'em all syndrome than actually like legitimate. And then when you find out that when you promote, there's some figures like they're never going to promote, like Marvel Girl. You're never going to get a Dark Phoenix, okay? But when you start looking at the promotions, it's like, this is stupid. You're only having the promotion so that I go out and buy more clicks, so that I'm driven to go and like, oh, I got this Thor, I need to go and buy that Thor. It's like, I have Blue Beetle, I need to get the other Blue Beetle. It's like, I don't see it. But I think promotion could be good if they made the ruling that whatever you promote it to, you don't get that promoted printed value. You get the base points for whatever was the initial figure. Because right now, if you promote from Jay Garrick Flash into, Wally Flash, and then you promote on your, you have like 3 clicks left, your opponent KOs Wally Flash, they get Wally Flash points. They don't get Jay Garrick points. So that's where I'm starting to say, like, WizKids, y'all need to start watching the point formulas, because at 300 points, the powers of technology, at 300 points, you're able, a player in a standard tournament has the ability to win more than 300 points worth of points, and we hadn't had that problem since Vendetta, in all honesty.
It's been around since, with the Hydra soldiers, Captain America set too.
Humanoids.
Yeah, you've been able to respawn. Those little Hydra technicians or whatever they were, they're like 25 points, and you mastermind to them, you kill them, give someone a click of damage, you bring them back in. It's got more than 300 points, and I'm okay with that. And I actually kind of like the promotion idea too. You don't have to collect every promotion. In my case, I just like to collect figures that I kind of like, so if I have all these promotion figures, I'll trade those off to get the ones that I want. I don't mind any of that.
I don't.
Gotta Catch 'Em All has been around for like a long time. This is not a new thing. I mean, they've been promoting you to buy multiple stuff since they introduced chases way back when. So
yeah, I don't know. I guess just this year, I feel like the Ash Ketchum policy was like, amped up to 20. It's like, can we get this off the charts, literally? And it's even more so like, okay, let's talk about a mechanic that's coming up to team packs. Even though it's a selling mechanic. I hate to say it like that. Team packs, now instead of like, hey, I open my boosters and I can get a complete set, now I have these team packs that will go for ridiculous amounts of money, aka the Hydra Technician from, the Avengers movie.
I still don't understand that. I do not know why that figure goes for that. Am I missing something?
Because he has enhancement, and he has, enhancement, perplex, and Hydra TA for hecka cheap.
$35 to 35 points.
He's good, but is he, I mean, I don't know you guys, but I haven't felt like I'm missing him to stock up on him to be meta competitive.
Well, I'm a Hydra fan, and I have 3 of them. So, and it took me
Yeah.
a long time to get those 3, and I'm really happy I got them because they help Red Skull out a lot.
Yes,
Yeah.
same thing for me. I think I have 3 or 4 of them and something like 10 of the soldiers.
Yeah, I mean, I can see the value for theme play for sure. I'm just surprised that he goes for that much without being,
They were so hard to get, and they only made one run of those team packs. They didn't when they released those, or that second run in those little foil bags.
Yeah,
those guys
team
weren't
packs.
in there. Yeah, those guys weren't in there.
That's a fair point.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, like, this is like ridiculous. I mean, it's just like, I mean, like from a selling point with the team packs, I'm concerned when we're looking at the Batman set. In all honesty, and it's like, here's the Streets of Gotham team pack, and it's like, Bat Family, we're hella broke, so guess what? You're not gonna find us, and then you're stuck with like Killer Croc, and it's like, oh, what am I gonna do with you? You know, because there's always that one guy that goes through and it's like, can I get 5 of this team pack? And then, they're gone.
Yeah.
But okay, so. I mean, with team packs, what's your views on them? Do you think that they're going to be legitimate? Like, this is the future of buying the game, or because it seems like they're coming to that horse and deciding it's not decayed enough, they're going to beat it again. Or do you think this is going to be just like this year, or we're going to see it sparsely? So I'll start with Ken this time.
Well, I'm not sure. From my standpoint, if they don't put generics in the team packs, then they're great. You get the Warriors 3, you get the you get the characters that all fit together, the Trinity that's coming up. It's from that standpoint, it's great marketing and it's nice to the players. Once they start putting generics in there, different story. Same thing as putting generics in the Fast Forces pack, and they seem to have gotten away from that. I mean, I don't consider Scarlet Witch as good as she is a generic. So. While some of us, myself included, might have more than one of those, that's not something that average player is going to be looking. I shouldn't say average player. That's not something a theme player or casual player is going to feel cheated that he doesn't have more than one of. I don't want to say average player because really there's two. We all know there's 2 HeroClix games: the competitive game and the theme game. And then so if they keep doing the theme packs without generics, I'm good with it. And they certainly seem to have done well, so I don't see why, if I were WizKid's marketing grand strategy guy, I wouldn't say, well, the players bought them up, they seem to have been popular, they sold out on the market, and no one's raising pitchforks and torches at us. Let's do more of that. And one thing I'll say about WizKids, I think they actually do respond to a lot of the criticisms. It just takes them about a year to respond. I think their product development cycle is slow enough that it takes them a while. But in this case, I think team packs, generally, they seem to have been well received, so I think we'll probably see a lot more of them. Of course, it all depends on what's in them, too.
Yeah, and I think, like, if you come up with the team packs, like if let's look at the Trinity team pack, for example. When I look at that one, I'm like, wow, this is underwhelming, and you don't even have the Trinity keyword. Like, I think it's some of the nuance that you would expect to be there is just not there. And then you have some examples just like, wow, this is like completely awesome. I hate to bring it up again, like the Hydra pack from Captain America set. That was completely awesome. Then you have what pissed me off later was the Asgardian one. And then it's like, here's Frost Giant Champion who does something really nice, but he's a generic and he's only available through team packs and he's $8 a single. That's where I start getting frustrated is when they put unique mechanics inside of those team packs where it's like, oh, if by chance I didn't get one or I didn't have enough money for one and I come back 2-3 weeks later, they're all gone, that I'm sort of, hosed. But then they freaking released Atrocitus, which makes me sad. Cry. Oh gosh. Anyway, so any other comments on team packs as we sort of wrap this up?
I think there's no way they don't put generics in team packs. If you remember years ago, they were telling their retailers that it was a selling point that they put highly desirable generics in the anti-monitor pack strictly to fuel sales. They're going to definitely do that again, and we're just going to have to sit here and like it because they want it to sell, so they're going to do everything they can to make it sell.
Yeah, and I know for me, prime example, anti-monitor. How many people were just giving away like anti-monitors for like free or cheap, or like for like $15, $20, just so that they can get like 2 to 3 Thunders Accords? You know,
I sold mine for $5, and I still have 8 Thunderers and Shadow Demons. I kind of went a little crazy on those. I love those guys.
Yeah.
Yes, I know what you mean, and they did in fact promote that as desirable generics in team packs. The only thing I'd say is that they haven't put any generics in the last couple of Fast Forces, so maybe they changed their minds. We'll see.
Oh yeah, the Kryptonian Renegade is hella strong. We had a game where it was like all minions and 1 leader, and so like you had one figure that was like a name figure, and then the rest of them had to be generics. And Kryptonian Renegade was my MVP. she wrecked face. Oh gosh. But okay, so and going on to another buying element. The one thing I sort of noticed, and we've had some pretty cool Fast Forces, and then we've also had some duds. Cool Fast Forces that come off the top of my head: Superman set, Chaos War. If you look past Scarlet Witch, I mean that Thor up until 10th anniversary was pretty much like the cheapest 11 attack 4 damage that you could get in the game with damage reduction and running shot. Then we also had, I would say that the Annihilator's Fast Forces was another solid Fast Forces. Do you think that Fast Forces is a good way for folks to get competitively into the meta, or do you just think it's like, man, this is still a hustle? Like, it's not benefiting the players at all?
I think they're one of the best values you can get. They really are. They give you desirable figures that you sometimes can't get in the main set, and sometimes are even better than figures in the main set. I mean, they just released the Batman Fast Forces dials yesterday, and they are really good for the most part. There's not a really terrible figure in there. They all can do something really good. You got first Batman that basically carries around a sniper rifle, because who doesn't want their Batman to have prop control and pulse wave like everybody else? And designed to play with the Catwoman in the gravity feed, so it all kind of ties together. I think Fast Forces are really, really good value, and you don't usually get terrible figures out of them.
Yeah, this is Ken. I'm a fan also. I think the worst couple of Fast Forces are still pretty good buys for a new player, and the best ones have been fantastic. And there are even Fast Forces that I think kind of get a bum rap, like the X-Men Fast Forces. I like that set quite a bit. Granted, it's not the alpha level versions of the figures, but they're nice fill-ins. That Rogue is quite fun. That Wolverine is really good. And if you were unfortunate enough not to be around when Giant Size X-Men came out, most of those figures, even the commons and uncommons, are a little hard to come by or cost a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great set too for a newer player. I think the people complaining about it probably were looking for the next step up in power instead of a step down, and I can see that. You know, it's always nice to have a powerful. The new Justice League Fast Forces pack is really nice too. The gravity feed boxes, you know, it's a little hit and miss what you get in a set like the DC 52 set. But if you just want to get a solid set of superheroes that you like, Fast Forces pack, and all those dials are playable too. I think the only set I would call an outright dud is probably the Hulk set. None of those dials stood out, and you had multiple versions of Hulk and General Ross and soldiers that, there was a little bit of a saturation point there.
Yeah. So what do you think, George?
Outside of just generally previews before the products are launched, that's all I'm kind of like looking at because I'm busy usually. So by default, Fast Forces, I always buy them. I always put them on reserve because of the map. I always want the maps in the back of the pack, and then I go through the characters. It sounds kind of backwards, but if I don't have time to look at the figures, then I'll just by default buy it because I want the terrain.
Okay, see, that's a completely different way of looking at it. And then I know they stopped putting the dice in there, which to an extent I'm sort of glad because the dice never rolled well for me.
Tiny dice.
Yeah, they're tinier than what they used to put in the set, which I can see how it saves money for them, but at the same time, it's sort of crap when you're trying to look at those dice.
It'd be nice if they put licensed dice with a team symbol or a character symbol on it.
Oh, but that would cost money and take away from all the money they're trying to extort from you. We can't do that.
I just think that their licensing arrangement would allow them to do that for nearly no cost. And since the custom dice machine has more or less been shut down for legal reasons, understandable legal reasons, it's just too bad.
Yeah, and I mean, well, I was talking about this with the store owner a couple of nights ago. It's pretty much my only problem with some of the custom dice is they are not only they're nice looking, but the problem is they don't roll fair. Like, and I know with some custom dice in particular, I do know, and they're not intended to be weighted, but they do roll sixes higher or more frequently than non-custom dice. And I'm almost tempted to say, like, first major tournament I ever run, like, no custom dice, all standard dice, just for the pure fact of custom dice. I don't want to say it's cheating because, for all well intentions, it's not. It's just they don't roll fair. But that's my gripe. That's my gripe.
Well, I did a little research and I could tell you the reason for that is not the weight; it's the uneven rounding on the corners. And custom dice are just as likely to roll bad as good, but they can be skewed to a particular number. And my solution is a dice cup. If you're rolling in a dice cup and you upend them, they're not rolling across the table, and that doesn't factor in as much.
Oh, okay.
So what I'd suggest to you, first major tournament you run, dice towers or dice cups. Plus you keep the dice from rolling off the table.
Oh, okay. It's like if you play customs, you have to have a dice tower. Okay, that's a good one. I have to write that one down, or listen to my own recording. But okay, so with that being said, sort of going forward into these sets and then looking at Fast Forces, do you think there's a future for Villains Fast Forces? And I know this is a little bit more thematic than tactical, but we've seen heroes and heroes and heroes, and then like the only villains that we really got was like Lex Luthor and the AIM Renegade. I mean, not AIM Renegade. Oh gosh, Kryptonian Renegade. We don't really see too many villains in the Fast Forces, like a Loki from Hammer of Thor. Do you think that would sell? Do you think that would be good for the game, or is just like another one of those things that would just, it's like, oh, it's going to probably flop?
I don't know. Can we consider starter sets basically to be kind of like Fast Forces Light? Because if we can't, we got a really good Bane in the Dark Knight Rises starter.
Yeah.
He was a villain.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. I didn't buy that.
It's worth buying. That, I think an all-villain pack is a hard sell, but I like them when they split them 50-50. I'd buy Villain Fast Forces in a heartbeat. Not only do I tend to buy everything, we never have enough villains, but just from what I understand, the Sinister and Arkham Asylum sets didn't quite sell as much because of the heavy villain focus, which I think is a shame.
I loved Arkham. Sinister, not so much.
I like
Arkham
two
was
terrible sets. Those combat guys were just terrible.
In Arkham or Sinister?
Arkham and Sinister. Oh, those are terrible in my opinion. There's the villain sets. I like the character base, but the guys were just terrible.
That Metron's never going anywhere. What a loser piece.
Oh god. It's always fun rolling like 8 on 18 all the time.
Yeah.
That's kind of how the set was. Like 9 attack, dipping to an 8, and then you're rolling on like 17s and 18s all day.
That was Sinister. And I will say this. Sinister introduced to everyone, you can't just have 1 or 2 perplexers anymore. You have to have, multiple perplexers to do that. Or you need to have Hydra, or you need to have stat mods.
Or you need to not play too many figures from the set. Which is, I think, where I ended up. That was more character selection than anything. I like B-list villains as much as anybody. I'm still rooting for Angleman, but at the end of the day, B-list villains with B-list dials, hard sell. I'll pull out a Fightful 4 team now and then, but Jack-O-Lantern didn't get a lot of play from me, for instance. Not a lot of use of Wizard.
Beetle freaking I know I'm distracting a little bit. Beetle out of that set was okay, and then I used Mach 3 all the time in his LE because he had leadership, and then I would use Inspiring Command with the rest of my Avengers, and then watch silliness occur. But it's an old meta with that. So talking about just transitioning into meta talk, the meat and potatoes of why people listen to this podcast. From everything that we've seen so far with Batman set and what we have out already, where do you think the meta is going? And I brought it up on here before. I think the meta is going into hyper aggro. The way it is now from 10th anniversary. We see high attack values, high damage, movement attack, first click, burst down damage, just like the classic figures. We're almost at like legacy, power overwhelming level. But we're starting to see vehicles that are damage sponges. And so, is that going to like slow things down again? And when you have like automatic damage, with vehicles. So what do you guys think is where the meta is going? And this time we'll start with Dan.
It's definitely going to go a little bit towards vehicles. They're too cheap and a little too good for the moment. I don't know. I was sitting here playing around at 300 points, and I built a 300-point Gotham City team that I didn't think was too terrible. It was Lieutenant Gordon, a police cruiser, a 40-point cop from the Dark Knight Returns set to activate all the police cruiser's pilot abilities, and the Batman that I love to hate, the 105-point I do penetrating from the bushes. But and its vehicles are definitely going to be where things swing. Probably the Batmobile, you'll probably see that. Maybe the Invisible Jet. The Bug, I think, is really, really good, but I think basically got to play him with Blue Beetle, so you got to spend 200 points in a 300-point game, and at that point I think it's just a little too... It'll be really hard to take down, but after a couple of hits it doesn't do enough damage to really do anything else. In big point games, though, with the amount of healing that thing can do, goodness gracious, look out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also shifting a lot to resources versus anti-resources, and we've already seen them try to release a couple of Iron Men and things like that. And I don't know what they're going to do down the road. I was watching I think it was a WizKids designer watching the World's Final game between George and Alex, and he was taking a bunch of notes, and I saw him writing down things like outwit is useless, no one uses damage reducers, it's all about high defense, so maybe they're going to try to adjust that, who knows.
Okay, Ken, what's your insight?
Well, what he said, I'm a pretty bad predictor of the meta. I usually have been, but I usually come aboard once it gets warmed up. I haven't really done the math on the Beetle to see if it's viable in a 300-point game. The fact that it's so ridiculously hard to kill certainly can't help. I don't think the Gauntlet's going anywhere. I know there's been a couple of Gauntlet nerfing pieces floated out there, but I don't think either one of them really shuts it down all the way. I've played Gauntlet pieces against that Iron Man, not against an Iron Man with the Gauntlet himself, so I've yet to see that. But the best way to deal with that Iron Man at his low point against the Gauntlet is to kill the rest of his team, activate, and then flurry him. You get 2 hits for a 50-50 chance of him taking unavoidable damage, and if your stats are bumped, he's not going to hurt you that much, if he can hurt you at all. I just based him, shut down his Psychic Blast, and flurried him. And he sat there trying to hit me, didn't do him any good. But the Gauntlet is still way too flexible. We don't know everything about the Bat Belt yet, but I don't think it's going to match the power of choosing a power a turn. I'm probably preaching to the choir here, but I think we all know one of the reasons why Thunderbolts was so awesome was that it gave you the ability in-game to react to anything. Right? You could sit down across from your opponent's build, and it wasn't just that you could pick a great power and have it, it's you could pick a great power for the situation and have it. Same thing with the Gauntlet. It's not just the amount of powers it gives you, it's the fact that you can pick the power that suits you at the time. Fighting someone with range and no ability to deal with stealth, pick stealth. You're invulnerable for a turn. Need to get through those damage reducers, pick Pulse Wave. That's probably the power I pick most often. You're across the board and you got a minute to have a breather, pick Regen. Get back the 1 or 2 clicks you lost. Makes it that much harder to kill. So I don't think the Gauntlet's going away yet. I do agree it's going to go very aggro. But I think it's going to be aggro versus Gauntlet dial. The real question is, what do the vehicles bring to this? There's been a big trend to shorter dials in the last couple of years. You see some great figures out of 10th anniversary set. That Superman, that Brainiac, they're huge dealers of damage. But on the flip side is they can't really take a shot. Some of the best pieces in the game have only got 7 or 8 clicks of life now. They're not I'm talking 10 pulls specifically. They're not the 10-click pieces they used to be. And, the one thing that the Gauntlet doesn't do for you, it boosts all your stats, but doesn't give you more clicks on your dial. So, those short dials in a Gauntlet-on-Gauntlet fight, you can burn through those pretty fast, just 1 or 2 hits and someone's dead. With all the damage increase. I may have gone on a little bit about this, but I think figures with the stop turning this dial power are going to be more at a premium. If there's another good counter to the Gauntlet that's coming up, that might be at a premium. But I still think you're going to see a lot of Gauntlets.
Okay. All right, cool. That's interesting. George, what's your insight?
Frankly, I think it's a little too early for me to say. I just don't know yet. I've been playing, or flirting with a lot of different ideas with my buddies, down in the basement. And then there's a lot of incomplete previews, which leaves a lot open to speculation. It's just too early. I can't really say. I can't. I want to tell you that 10 pulls are now just as quickly as they came in last year. I think they're on their way out, and that's about all I'll say, or all I can really say.
Yeah, I'll say this much from just in general. It's like I think that we're going to see the age of let me go hide my guy before he's about to die inside his car. I think that's going to be the new future of, oh, you didn't kill me, too bad. I'm in my car and I'm off the map. And so now you have to chase down my car with my Alfred that's, or whatever figure that I have tailing it, because I can pick somebody else up, and I'm going to run around the map. And I'm going to ram you. I'm going to, cop car, hit you. I'm going to do whatever I can to stall until the end of the game. I think that vehicles have reintroduced the stall meta and doing a legitimate stall. definitely when you look at the Invisible Jet. The Invisible Jet in piloted mode is a ridiculous amount of clicks. And, like Ken was saying, the gauntlet cannot increase the amount of clicks that you have. And when you look at 106 points, that you get 4 clicks of regen, and you have shape change on your regen, and you have 15 clicks of life for 106 points.
Wow.
That is ridiculous.
I had no
Okay,
idea.
plus you give your team ghetto super senses. I mean, that's ridiculous. You shouldn't be able to do have that much health for that low cost with those stats and shape change.
Well, this is a mechanic first of its kind. They're probably just giving it like a little push, because they want to see it used and played. And the only thing I can think of is that it's kind of brand new, and they want to see it sort of take off. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe they just have too much invested in it.
I guess just for the license they have to get it to sell. But I mean, the one thing that is clear is that they tried to give an adjustment for Colossals and for multi-base figures with the rules, because currently, the rules previously were just screwing over multi-base figures and trying to get through doorways and all that. Definitely the I call them 2x2s, or it's like 3x6. Those in particular were screwed on maps. But then you create stuff like Bizarre World map that just screws 3x6, killing that meta. But anyway, I think the future of the meta is run and gun until vehicles come out. Once vehicles come out, it's like run and stall. And so you're going to start seeing people pack support, because now you have that guy that is that deep, that you can heal up. And it's going to be your vehicle. They're going to have to say, outside of their own ability, vehicles cannot be healed. I mean, that's the only way that I see them being balanced. I mean, that's the only way. Yeah, just in all honesty, the only way I can see them being balanced. The other thing I think that's probably going to be ridiculous is the flock of bats. And when you start looking at like what the flock of bats do, they each do something different. But for 13 points, you have something that Batman can just magically swap to. And B, you also have, a very good cheap tie-up piece for low points. Now you could always argue, Astro Doctor Strange is better, and that's more than fair. And then when you start looking at some of the other like little weird effects that they do, it's like, oh yeah, these are going to be, of course, going to be broken. So with that, I also think like we might see the end of Theme Team. Like it's at a point now where Theme Team is almost not worth playing. Unless you really need map with your team, I'm not really sure if Theme Team is going to be a go-to anymore in the meta.
I don't know about that. I think map choice is always going to be a big thing, and I think themes will benefit. Plus, having the emergency oh crap probs is never a bad thing. Maybe not. Maybe you'll see more non-generic themes. I think there was a decent amount of themes at Worlds.
Yeah. Well, if we look at the themes at Worlds, for example, let's take Alex's team. Unfortunately, since he's not here, it's still theme. But did he need theme prob on his team? I can argue no. I mean, just for the amount of attacks that he's doing per turn, he really didn't need a theme prob, because at most, usually he's going to do 2 attacks per turn.
Well, yeah, it's Scarlet Witch too.
Yeah, I mean, and you have Scarlet Witch. So, I mean, if you look at it, it's like, okay, Scarlet Witch plus you have Gauntlet, plus you're powering up, Morgan Le Fay. Morgan Le Fay has a Perplex. Scarlet Witch has a Perplex. You don't really need prob as much. Definitely you can give, Wasp a 13 attack. That's almost an auto hit. So.
Yeah, I might be in the minority here. George and Dan outrank me as they've won Worlds and I haven't. But I was always under the opinion that if you had any situation where a critical miss was really going to hurt your chances, you needed a prob at Worlds. Because you just can't gamble on the fact that, I mean, if you could survive a critical miss and you weren't going to be too extended and it wasn't going to throw you off some key click, that's fine. But if you ever had a hit that you needed to not crit miss, not necessarily hit, but not crit miss, that's when you needed your prob. For that reason, I always like to have at least a theme prob or a prob controller. Because I just don't want to take that big swing of the game and miss it. Other opinions?
No, I agree with you. I like themes. I like having the ability to choose map, and I like the ability to have those. This figure wasn't going to do anything this turn anyway. Oh, and now I have emergency backup prop control. I used to call it break class in case of crit miss. I think is what I used when I used to play the teams that had one prop control on them.
Yeah, I mean,
two figures.
I didn't go to Worlds this year. Last year I was at Worlds. I was in the third round. I had a theme team and I had Domino. And I crit missed. Re-rolled with Domino and crit missed again. And then I blew one of my theme props. And I ended up winning that game, which was great because then I got to face Dan in the next round and he creamed me. But that's beside the point. That's beside the point. In that case, I would have thought I wouldn't have even needed the prob. But it's just like when everything's on the line for such high stakes, you got to plan for extreme circumstances.
Well, the main reason I'm sort of throwing out there is like I think Theme Team is dead to an extent. Is I think that Constantine came in and said, by the power invested in me, I screwed this over. True
that.
Yeah, in my meta, like Constantine popping up at random, like at first when he came out, it was a little bit more consistent. Now, when he pops up at random, it's like, oh, sort of glad I didn't build that theme team, or else I'd be really pissed. Or in my case, I'm not going to front. I usually roll with 2 to 3 probbers. If it's a 300-point game, you can guarantee at least I have one. 300 points and higher, I definitely have 2. If it's Golden Age, Destiny is going to show up, unless there's a theme requirement. So I'm not going to lie on that. So Constantine has ruined a couple of my nefarious plans. And so he pretty much just said, if you bring a theme team, yeah, you get to pick map, but until you kill me or outwit my power, then that's it. You won't be able to use prob. And guess what? I'm copying Secret Avengers. So you won't be able to do jack. And I'm a Mystics. So those elements combined together just made me say, like, nah, this isn't as worth it as I thought it was. It's time for me to move on to what Crown Company said. Crown Company said, why limit yourself by restricting yourself to theme when you can just play the best of the best and then make your team? And I think we're back to that. I think we're back to the build the best of your best because we have this overwhelming power, which is John Constantine. But with that being said, with meta predictions, and let's go into resource dials and relics. I've been arguing for a while that relics are pretty much obsolete. They are their name. They're relics of the game. You have to roll to get them. They're not guaranteed. They're not even close to powerful as their resource counterparts for less points or for example, you have, not the Global Ultimate Knowledge, but the one that gives you Prob and Perplex. Cosmic Cube. Okay, you have Cosmic Cube that's 12 points, and and that's almost as expensive as the Utility Belt. Like, you can get a cheaper version of the Utility Belt and have +1 stats that you never have to get off of. Which would you rather have? I'd rather have the utility belt, and because I don't have to roll for it, you know. So when I look at the future, I think resource dials are going to be the king. Whether you're looking at Batman utility belt, which, you know, fully loaded, and he's like, hey, guess what, guys? I have willpower and I can negate a team ability. Or Gauntlet, it's like, hey, guys, I get these cool assortment of powers, and guess what? I get to pick whatever power I want and have plus stats. You know, or they haven't shown everything yet, but we do know that the Batcave is a resource dial. You can run up into it, and you can get healed by Alfred. You know, so you know Alfred is part of the deal. So, I mean, like, when you think about it, I think we're in a point now where it's like you're going to either have to play resource dials, or you're not even going to look at relics anymore. I think relics are inferior now.
I think relics are way overcosted for what they do. I think you're absolutely right. What's the point? They shouldn't have to roll on them. Just take a power action to pick it up. You're already paying 10 points. I mean, it's what, 5 or 6 shy of, or 4 points shy of a full bat belt. Pick the darn thing up with a power action. Use it.
Yeah,
I don't see why you have to roll on it.
When you had Mjolnir, which was free, I could see it. And you know, you've got the Scorpio key, which is 4 points and gives you great benefit. That's all right. Between the resource dials, which are undercosted, and the fact that most of the other relics or special objects are overcosted, they seem to get less powerful and more expensive as time goes on. I mean, a Scorpio key for 4 points is worth it. Mjolnir for free? Well, yeah, it's free. But the resources are cheap, and as I said before, the ability to choose how you're going to react to something, you know, the variety costs. It has a huge benefit. It should cost. And in the case of the Gauntlet, it doesn't.
Yeah. Okay, like, and for those who haven't had a chance to go over to AC Realms, they do have the dial up for the Batman utility belt. Now, what we don't know is, we do know there's costume swapping. I don't know how they're going to do that, because the costume, I guess they're going to introduce that in the future. Then you have your items. We only know one of the items, but we do know the dial. And the first special power says you have to do a double power action to get off of that, but you have +1 stats. I'd be like, screw that, I'm staying here. If you do get off of that, you have a chance of having no plus stats and getting whatever cool kooky item that the cape comes with. Or you can, you know, go farther down and you can possibly land on the chance of having +2 stats. But the moment that you do any action, you roll again and you go off of it. And so I can see, like, okay, the Batman utility belt is cheaper, a little bit more chaotic, but you can hit that +2. You know, you're just not guaranteed to stay there, where the Gauntlet is, oh snap, I'm stuck, or I'm on a bad click, let me hurry up and power up my Gauntlet, you know, or you get lucky and roll 6 3 times. You know, that's when I can say definitively the Gauntlet will stomp just a mud hole into the Batman utility belt. But the Batman utility belt, as it stands now, has a very distinct early game advantage over the Gauntlet, because the user just has to say, forget it, I'm not doing a double power action. I'm coming out with, you know, my major hitter. He has willpower and he can negate team abilities. I negate this on your team. Now I'm coming for you. You know, it can be killer when you're going against a JSA team, when you can just start isolating pieces. You know, I think that's where it's going to be interesting, or Mystics, so you don't have to take Mystics damage, you know.
It's definitely going to be interesting. I need to play with it before I figure out how good it is, because it's so, with only knowing the one thing, it's so hard to guess and plan for it. And I don't know if they're going to errata it, but there's, on click 17, I guess it was supposed to be Leap Climb, but they put it in the damage symbol, so you can randomly get Battle Fury if you want it from the utility belt. Why not? But I think I need to play with it before I can really make a decision on it. That said, it's definitely cheaper than the Gauntlet, and it's definitely going to have more of an immediate benefit. So it basically comes down to do you want your team to be more aggressive now, or do you want your team to be more aggressive later?
Yeah, and I think that's the overall design issue that I'm seeing in team building, crafting, and all that. With that, also looking at the stat mods, are we in a position now? And I'm about to speak blasphemy here. Are we in a position now where Outwit and Perplex are not as big of a deal as they once were? Or are we in or do you think that's still subject to change? For anybody, this is just a free-for-all question.
I'll say that I think we've been post-Outwit for a while. When I build a team, if I have a piece with Outwit, I'm happy to have it. I don't even look for it. And occasionally I'll get in a situation where I'm really wishing I had that Outwit, but it's not a go-to power for me anymore. Of the pit crew powers, that's actually pretty far down on my list these days. There's just too many power cosmic pieces post, as Chaos War and Galactic Guardians came out, that and then too many gauntlets. Between the two of those things, I don't even count on being able to use an Outwitter. All I gotta say, a 25-point Outwit piece, aka the new version of Batgirl from the Gravity Feed. I suppose if I got room for that, I'll pack it. But it's not primary for me anymore.
Yeah, Outwit might be gone, but Perplex will never ever not be useful. Even if you've got a +3 to all your stats, you can still Perplex down someone else's stats. I might have a defense of 20, but if you've got a damage of 3 and I've got Impervious, well, if I Perplex your damage down to 2, then I've taken away basically all your options except rolling a critical hit. Perplex will always be useful, if nothing else, to perplex down defenses, perplex down ranges. It's never going to not be useful unless they make pieces that are immune to perplex, which, okay, then it will start being less useful.
Yeah, I agree with that. Perplex is always going to be useful.
Alright, George, you got any insight on that?
Yeah, I still like Outwit. Generally, the characters, your opponent's character with the assigned gauntlet, it isn't going to be a support piece like Scarlet Witch, who has perplex. So, yeah, I'm going after her with my Outwit while attacking the main cannon. That helps. I still like it. I still think it's a viable power.
Okay. As we wrap things up with controversy here, and so pretty much since we've been going for a while, here's my last thing to you all. It's been a while since I've asked any of you this question since you've been on the show. Is that there's anything out there that you wish was made in the meta or was taken away from the meta? It can be a figure or it can be a mechanic. It can be whatever. What would it be? And since George so eloquently, brings back the power of Outwit, we'll start with George.
I guess I'm not too fond of patch mechanics. There's so much belly aching about the gauntlet online, and I don't know what the mentality of like WizKids is or what their stand, but they create these things like that Iron Man of adaptive armor. It's like writing a patch program like Kid Zoom to Hypersonic or Bullseye to Nightcrawler. It's like something that they put out there that doesn't really fit the character, but they put it out there maybe to quell some of the belly aching. I'm not sure. I'm not really a fan of that. If they make something in the game and it's not quite right or it's a little off, it's got about a 2-year lifespan, and then it'll get faded out. And like Ken was saying earlier, it only takes them about a year before you start seeing everything that they find us playing and not liking, or things that we do like. Either they enhance the things that we do like, or they modify or reform the things that we don't. So it'll change eventually. But I'm not a huge fan of the patch programs. I don't like those. And Iron Man's another reason why relics are so trashy, because he also ignores relics. So who's going to pay for an overpriced relic, then have to go up against Iron Man, and you got to roll, take your chances on a 5 or 6 to pick the darn thing up, and then never get a chance to damage him because you picked it up. It's just kind of ridiculous. Things that I wish were in the metagame or in the game in general. More players. I want more players. I want to draw in more of a crowd. I want to play new people and collect more heads. That's about it.
All right, eloquence to brutality at the end.
Thanks.
I'll throw it to you, Ken. What do you think should be in the game, and what do you think should probably be removed from the game here?
Well, as long as they're going with resources as sort of add-ons, I would not mind seeing resources as smaller cost bolt-on items and have them be essentially a replacement for feats. Enough relics. Maybe make small single object resources that act like prizes. Make them feats. Playtest them. No more globally, universally have to play pieces. And then as far as what I'd like to see phased out, well, the Gauntlet's been interesting. I think it's run its course as far as my interest. But like I said, I think it's still around in the metagame. I wouldn't mind seeing that phased out. I don't want to see it phased out by patch, though. I agree with George on that. The patch mechanics never quite work, because then it just becomes rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah.
But I can live for the next, year and a half while we wait for that to roll off. One of the last thing I'll say is I want to see Angleman, the ultimate board control piece.
All right, Dan, you have heard those who went before you. What's your answer?
Well, to go back a little bit to a point, I don't believe that relics are totally useless. Most of the newer ones are way too expensive, but I still think that the Crimson Gem is a great way to spend 5 points. And, the good thing is, like I said, if you're going up against an Iron Man and it's like, oh, well, the thing between a relic and like a resource tile is if you have your resource tile and you go up against somebody who neuters a resource tile, you can't turn the resource tile off. But you always have the option to pick up the relic, and it's only 5 points, and it's really useful. Maybe I've just got a soft spot in my heart for it because we know why. But but other than that, the newer relics are pretty useless. That said, I don't really know what. I don't want to sculpt the meta to my image, so I don't want to have anything I really want to be in there. As for things to be out, I find myself getting angrier and angrier at that new Marquee Batman, but that's just kind of my own silly thing because I have a friend that loves Gotham way too much. But I don't really have any. I don't know. I don't want to sculpt the game to my image. I don't design it. I wanted Mr. Sinister in the game, and he's in the game, so I'm happy.
Okay, I will answer my own question. If I could add anything into the game, I'll not front. It would be Dr. Voodoo. I would create Dr. Voodoo, but that's a whole different other story. But if it was something other than my magical character that I would create, I would definitely just make it so that AEs would be like Morph. Like that, if I had the ability to get rid of whatever silliness, it would just be AEs work like Morph. Just from that point on, ignore whatever that power says, and then there's just, you can turn into that character. Outside of Thor, outside of Donald Blake, because he does have that shenanigans where he can bring lightning down or whatever, and it does that, then yeah, that stays the same. He would not change. But like when he morphed, the lightning would come down or something like that. That's the only thing I would keep. Effects like that. What I would get rid of, I would get rid of patch syndrome from WizKids, and to fix patch syndrome, I would actually prefer that they would start outsourcing some of their playtesting to either qualify by saying, hey, were you top 16 at Worlds? Guess what? Your prize is that you get to play test what we're designing. It's not going to have names on there. It's not going to have special power names so you know who it is. But if you want to, you can play test for us and tell us, what do you think of these dials? And what's overpowered and what's powerful, or what should be used, what should go. I really would like to see that instead of, hey kids, tired of that Nightcrawler? Pack Bullseye with Thunderbolts. Hey kids, tired of this other thing? Pack, Magic Tool Man. Magic Tool Man has everything you need to kill whatever's on the other side of the board. That's what I would want to see. And I think the big failing right now of WizKids is hubris. They can't realize that they don't know what they're talking about. Definitely when I look at vehicles, it's like you've set us in this mindset that we're having shorter dials, higher damage output, fast games. Then you introduce low defense, moderate attacks, moderate damage, huge dials that can be healed, where there's no way that we can crank out enough damage in one turn to kill that. And it's super cheap. So that's what I would fix. So, all right. Unfortunately, I have the last word, and it's my show. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to email me at startingoverpodcast@gmail.com. That's startingoverpodcast@gmail.com. If you wish to opine, keep it short, keep it long, keep it whatever. Just, send me info. Hit the subscribe button if you like this. Definitely, if you want me to do more conversations like this where I can get Dan, George, Ken, Alex, hopefully next time, or Howard Brock or anybody else. I need to get Patricia back. I keep saying that. So who knows? One of these new episodes upcoming, I might have her if I can get her scheduled. Let me know, and then I'll try to do my best. Even if you want me to try to get another podcaster, I know I've been trying to get Push to Regen for a long time. We just keep having scheduling misconduct, or even DC Explorer from Glass Cabinet Films. Whoever it is, let me know, and I will try to get them on the show. That's pretty much it. Thank you for listening, and remember, we all have to start over sometime.